Alright guys, welcome back. It's good to have both of you back watching my videos. Got a little bit of shop time today, so I'm going to take care of a few projects on the Model A. Let's jump into it. I'll show you what I got to do. Alright, so I decided the way to tackle this thing is I'm just working on the front and working my way back. I've got my shifter set up. I got to mount my brake pedal today, which means I'm going to mock up my seats and get them set, and then I got to build my seat supports. And then once we're done with that, I got to finish my mounts for my back seat, and then we'll go on to the back, building the cage for the gas tank and a platform for the battery box, and getting ready to seal that off in a bulkhead. But today, if I can get through getting my emergency brake set up and then mock up my seats, I'll be pretty happy. The way we're going to do this, I'll just find center. I got center set up in the car. I'll put my seats in, make sure my emergency brake handle has enough room to be actuated between the seats. I'll make a little template, modify it to figure out exactly where I need to drill my holes for the emergency brake, and then we'll go from there. But check out this emergency brake handle. I don't know where it came from. It's OE Ford off of something, but it's pretty handy. It'll work pretty slick on this old hot rod. Alright, there we go. I'm gonna get at it. Be back in a minute. Alright, so here's what I ended up doing. I built this really crude cardboard template that fits with the emergency brake here, because it's not just where to put the hole, but there's also a swing here that the mechanism does. So I kind of mocked up where my two holes are going to be, figured out that it'll clear like that. Now we can take this guy, we can come over here and put it, figure where center is. So here's my center line marked, and it'll sit about like that. So I can center punch my holes, drill some holes here and cut out a square hole, and then mount that thing in there. Alright, check it out. Here's how we finished up. Cutting a square hole here, bolt holes to mount it. Let's see if I can one-hand this. So that's how it's going to mount. We'll have operation to do that. The way I cut that square hole out of there, I used this little guy. I don't know if you guys have ever used one of these from Harbor Freight, the classic Chicago electric. But if you're considering buying one of these, don't. It's almost worthless. I'm sure it's good for cutting thin plastic or hair or something. But unless you want to reset. You want to sit there and reset it every couple of seconds when you're trying to cut through anything. I think this is like 18 gauge metal. But nonetheless, I use my bigger cutting wheel, cut my slots, cut these sides, and this is why I like working with metal. Then I just took my little MIG welder and welded up the edges where the cuts went further in than I wanted. Ground it smooth, there we go. So, that is complete for now. I got to go underneath and tie up all the rest, but that's for another time. Next I'm going to move on to figuring out how my seats are going to mount. Alright, check it out. I got my seats mocked up in here. These seats are fairly reasonable. They're made for like a 60 style CJ5 Jeep. They're small. You're going to need seats like this if you are going to work in a Model A, because you really only have about 40 inches from one side to the other to work. So the seats need to be obviously less than 20 inches each. They're a little bit straight up and down, so when I mount them, they're going to have a little bit of a kickback to them like this. Get a little bit of recline with them. But for the mock-up purposes, this is about where they're going to sit, and they work pretty good. My emergency brake should be able to fit right in the middle there. I just got to tear the seats back out now, pop them out, drill some holes, put my bracket in there, and then we can move on to seat mounts. Alright, so the next thing I got to do to figure out some seat mounts. Here's what I'm working with, okay? Here's what the stock seat looks like. We'll check out this one here. It's just flat on the bottom, has some holes in it for brackets. I picked up some aftermarket sliders off of like eBay. They were pretty cheap. That'll bolt right to here, and I have them set on this seat. Okay, so you can kind of get an idea of what they work like. Here's what the sliders work like. But I got a couple issues. One, they get into the fabric here, or into the upholstery. Two, I don't want the seat to sit flat, right? I'm gonna have this thing sit in here with a little bit of recline, about like that, for comfort. So I want my slider to be on the floor, right? So I'm gonna have to build a bracket. What I mean by that is I'm gonna have to build a bracket to mount from here to the floor of the car. But I want my sliders to sit flat on the floor so that if it's like this and I go to scoot the seat, you don't have to slide uphill or downhill, right? Or else every time you pull the handle, you just shoot to the back. So I've got some thinking to do. I got myself a fresh cup of coffee. I got my thinking chair. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sit here and stare at this for a few minutes and ponder, see if I can come up with a solution. All right, man, check it out. I love it when a plan comes together. I figured out this seat debacle in the car. I put the back seat in too, just so you can check it out. You can kind of see what it looks like. This is actually a pretty nice bench seat. It's out of like a minivan middle seat, and my dad had it. Modified it to go into his an old hot rod of his, but then ditched it and got some bucket seats for his coupe. So I got it. It's actually been sectioned, or yeah, I guess sectioned here in the middle. So it's about 4 inches narrower than the original van seat would have been, but fits perfectly here in the back of the Model A. And you can see kind of what I'm going to be dealing with there when I build my little bulkhead behind it and so on. But I put this thing in removable, so if it's just two dudes riding in the car, or me and my wife sometime, we can pull this back seat out and have some space if necessary. But to the seat issue, here's what I came up with. Okay, so this is about where the seat's gonna ride. And I got a bit of an issue with the seat is wider than the floor, where the floor has been channeled here. So I needed to do something to come in. So that's what I'm gonna do. I got these universal sliders. I'm gonna just mount them inside the frame rails wherever I need to so they're comfortable. This is the handle to actuate the sliders. I'll just modify that thing to fit in there in between. And then once I get this set, all I got to do is put some square tube across here that comes out far enough to mount to the bottom of my seats front and back. And I can build my platform a little bit up here because I do want the front to sit higher than the rear, give it a little bit of a recline. And that'll work. So I'll just have to figure out where my mounts need to go, my sliders need to go to give full travel. Comfortable position in this car is about right there. Enough room for kids to ride in the back seat needs to be about right there. So I'll just figure out the middle position on my sliders. But I'm pumped. I think that's going to work pretty easy. I had to sit there and think about it for a while, but I think that's going to work out. All right, it's about lunchtime Saturday, so I'm going to go in, hang out with the kiddos, and have some lunch, and then maybe this afternoon I'll get back on this, and I'll be able to fix these sliders, and we'll get these seats mounted. Alright guys, thanks for hanging with me. Here's what I figured out. And so here's how I did it. First I came in here and I marked center line of the car and then a 90-degree off so that I could have my two sort of my datum lines here to base everything off of. So then I figured out where my rails needed to sit, and I almost goofed it up. I almost had them flipped over upside down so that when you scooted, the handle stayed on the floor of the car, but I caught that mistake and built it where the handle now stays with my rails. So that's my slide back and forth. I'm gonna come in here, I'm gonna build some spacers. I got some 1.5 inch square tube. I might do one and then another one on top that just comes across. And then I got some rectangular tube. I'll just build one that comes across here. And I'll just take those tubes and make it bolt into the original seat mounts here and here, front and back. And they'll just bolt right into the seat, and I think I'm just going to weld them onto the brackets here. And there you go. So now I just got to replicate the same thing on the other side of the car. I got to chop down my square tube, and then I'll be ready to bolt these seats in, and hopefully for the last time. Now, well, until I take it all apart to paint it, prep the interior, but then I'll be done with the front seats. I think it's about time to hang it up for the day. Been out here most of the afternoon. It's anniversary weekend, so we're gonna head out, get some dinner, but I should be back at this tomorrow afternoon. Hey guys, welcome back. It's the next day. I did a little more work on the Model A. a little bit this morning. I kind of hung it up yesterday and called it a day, and it's good because it gave me a chance to kind of think about how I'm going to do this project a little bit. But I got back on it today. I'll give you an idea how we look. Here's how we ended up. I got my passenger side mounts set in, and then what I ended up doing is building some spacers out of 1.5 inches to sit on about like that, and then I just have a piece of channel that'll weld to the back. But I got this side mounted in, and then I went ahead and tackled putting my brackets on the driver's side. So check it out, we got a seat. Here's how it looks. I just have it tacked into place right now. Hopefully you can see that. You can see I just have a 1-inch square tube here sitting on top of my spacers because I wanted to have a little bit of a rake with the seat. And then, you know, there she is. It slides back, it slides forth, locks into place with it in the all the way forward position. This is how much space I have. I had my daughter out here yesterday sitting in here, and she's about 5'4" or so, and she fits in there, and she's the tallest one, so there's enough room in the back seat, I think, to stuff some kids, at least for a short drive. And then the way the seat slides, I'll give you guys a little demo. So it's pretty tight. I know it's pretty hard to tell here, but it'd be pretty tight. Driving all the way forward with an all the way forward position, but it's doable. But the good thing is, the way the seat's set up, that's about a comfortable cruising position right there. Yeah, maybe even a little bit more forward, but anyway, so I can go all the way back here with no room behind the seat to my full forward position of about right there, which is still doable. So, hey, there we go. I think we succeeded. Now all I got to do is take this apart, finish weld everything underneath the seat, and then come over here and replicate the same thing on the passenger side. But I think that's good enough for this video. I'm going to wrap it up. Call this one complete. Alright guys, well that's it. I'm going to hang it up for this episode. Hopefully watching me put these seats in was a little bit helpful to you. You can gain something from it. Do me a favor, hit the little link right up here and subscribe to Bad Hombre Garage. Check it out. Leave some comments. Really, that's the best way I get feedback on whether you like the videos or whether it's worth your time or mine to do these videos. So I'm going to go inside, I'm going to hang it up, package this video, publish it. In the meantime, get out in the garage, go work on your hot rod, spend a little bit of time with your family, and build this community of ours.